The sky cracked open like glass. Above New Dakar, shimmering blue turned to fire as the first Zakar dreadnought breached Earth's upper atmosphere, its gravitational wake pulling clouds into spirals. Air raid sirens screamed across the megacity as millions looked upward, some frozen in place, others running, some simply whispering prayers they hadn't used in years. It began with silence. Then came the ash. A fine gray powder drifted from above as if the sky had exhaled a lungful of dust. But it wasn't ash from fire. It was pulverized orbital defenses, Earth's first line, shredded in seconds. From the control tower above Command Sector 4, Commander Rhea Vargas watched the descent. She didn't blink. Her hands rested on the rail, knuckles pale, eyes locked on the horizon where alien drop pods glowed like comets against the dying sun. A young lieutenant climbed up beside her, helmet off, breath ragged. "Ma'am," he gasped, voice breaking, "they're through every line. Shanghai's gone dark. They're leveling cities." "I know." Rhea's voice was iron. "Get downstairs. Tell Vega to activate fallback beacons. And prepare vulture assets." The lieutenant hesitated. "Do we kneel?" She turned, locking eyes with him. "Let them try to make us." For hours earlier, Earth Command had picked up gravitational ripples beyond Saturn, signatures too dense for natural objects, too clean for human craft. The Zakar fleet hadn't cloaked. They didn't need to. They wanted to be seen. 70 ships. 4 carriers. 2 dreadnoughts, each the size of a continent. They hadn't sent diplomats. No translation buoys. Just a pulse signal on open frequencies. Submission or erasure. Planetary designation, Terra. Status, colonial claim, ****. The United Terran Resistance Forces, such as they were, activated full-scale defense. Satellites armed with kinetic spears, railgun platforms in lunar orbit, and aging stealth drones rose to intercept. They were swatted aside like flies. By the time the first Zakar troops hit Earth's surface, 4 major cities had been erased, no survivors, no structures, only heat signatures and blackened craters. Underground, in the New Dakar Command Center, Rhea stood before a holographic display as crimson alerts bled across every continent. Her inner circle, 6 senior commanders from scattered factions, were grim-faced, silent. "Resistance cells in Africa and Eastern Europe are operational," said Colonel Inoue, tapping updates. "Black Shield teams engaged in Sao Paulo and Toronto. Minimal success." "Casualties?" Rhea asked without looking up. 70% in first contact zones. "They're not taking prisoners." Dr. Malachi Malik entered the chamber, eyes bloodshot. "They're not just conquering. They're testing response thresholds. Efficiency. We're not enemies to them. We're lab rats." Rhea leaned over the console. "Then let's be the rats that bite." A sharp ping interrupted her, live transmission. Zakar broadcast. She allowed it through. A towering alien figure appeared in the air, Supreme Commander Zeltharn. Forearms folded behind a massive armored chest, mandibles twitching, voice translated in a cold, genderless monotone. "Your species has exhibited signs of fractured cohesion. Primitive command hierarchy. Inefficient resource use. Submit, and minimal preservation protocols may be considered. Continue resistance, and your extinction shall be optimized." The room fell into heavy silence. Rhea leaned forward. "This is Commander Rhea Vargas of Earth. We don't do extinction quietly. Come down and try it face to face." The alien blinked. The feed cut. Later, she walked the outer perimeter above Command Sector 4. The Earth vibrated beneath her feet, distant impacts from alien landers. The skies above were swarming with black ships, moving in eerie, silent formations. Alien pods fell like needles from a black tapestry. Behind her, Commander Juno Vega joined her, suited in full battle gear, helmet under one arm. New Tokyo's gone. Berlin's holding but barely. Nairobi is surrounded. She paused. This might be it. Not yet, Rhea replied. I've seen collapse before. It doesn't start with bombs, it starts when people stop looking up. Juno gave her a long look. They came prepared, Rhea. They know our codes. They're slicing our networks like cheese. Then we cut our own lines. Full blackout. We go dark, dirty, and deep. Activate Project Vulture. Time for trapdoors and shadows. Juno didn't hesitate. Understood. Project Vulture wasn't a single program, it was a philosophy. A decentralized war doctrine forged after the AI wars, where centralized defense had failed catastrophically. Vulture assets were sleeper cells, drone swarms, subterranean bunkers, and electromagnetic disruption fields. At midnight UTC, Earth went dark. To the Zakar fleet above, humanity's defense grid vanished. No more feeds. No signals. No targets. For the first time, the invaders hesitated. That hesitation cost them 3 drop cruisers over Johannesburg, 4 in the Amazon, and the lives of 5,000 troops taken by heat-seeking spores developed in secret Earth biolabs. But it wasn't enough. The Zakar adapted fast. In orbit, Zeltharn observed with narrowed eyes. His aides flanked him, reporting the growing resistance. Primitive, but inventive, one hissed. Zeltharn stared down at the blue planet beneath his feet. They fight like predators cornered by fire. No order. No unity. They'll collapse soon. He turned to his comms officer. Ready the planetary sweeper. We'll cleanse one region completely. Leave no trace. Let the rest tremble. Back in New Dakar, Rhea stood inside the weapons vault beneath the command center. The room was dark, filled with artifacts from another war, AI core fragments, prototype rail slugs, and one box sealed in titanium glass marked, Echo, containment only. Do not activate, ****. Her fingers hovered over the keypad. Not yet, she whispered. The room rumbled. Another impact above. The lights flickered. She didn't move. The Amazon basin was fire and fog. Black Shield Unit 7 emerged from the murk like ghosts, their exo-armor slick with heat-dampening polymer, eyes glowing faint amber. Rhea Vargas monitored the feed from thousands of miles away inside Command Sector 4, every heartbeat of the mission pulsing in real time through her neural interface. Visual on Zakar Relay Tower, said Sergeant Column, voice low and steady. Target confirmed. 8 guards. Minimal defense perimeter. We go silent. The jungle was quiet, too quiet for normal Earth fauna. Zakar landing spores had poisoned the ground around their forward posts, sterilizing everything down to the bacteria. Strike on your command, Column whispered. Rhea didn't hesitate. Green light. The squad moved. Quick, silent, surgical. Human-engineered weapons fired without sound, compressed sonic blades slicing through armor. Explosives planted beneath relay legs in 10 seconds flat. Get clear, Rhea said. Seconds later, a flash burst through the treeline. The tower folded in on itself and collapsed into a burning crater. Relay down, Column reported. No casualties. Extraction en route. Good work, she replied. On to the next. Across the world, Vulture assets activated. Resistance groups that had once fought each other were now unified by one command net, quantum-entangled channels that the Zakar couldn't trace or jam. The enemy had expected brute conquest. Instead, they got invisible war. In Seoul, hackers hijacked an orbital survey drone and redirected it into a Zakar gunship. In Cairo, civilians turned utility tunnels into ambush zones, choking entire platoons with plasma mines buried in sewer grates. In Antarctica, decoy bases exploded on impact, vaporizing entire Zakar landing craft with fusion cores disguised as ice silos. It wasn't elegant warfare. It was desperate, dirty, and surgical. But it was working. At high orbit, Supreme Commander Zeltharn stood before a multi-layered projection of Earth's resistance footprint. What had once been marked with low threat indicators was now crawling with red zones. Your assessment, he snapped. Strategist Valmar stepped forward. Human adaptability exceeds projected parameters. They reject central command protocols, unpredictable and decentralized. Our jamming systems have failed to disrupt their communications. Estimated timeline for conquest has tripled. Zeltharn narrowed his gaze. This species was fractured and bickering days ago. Where did they find unity? They didn't, Valnar replied. They found purpose. The Zakar commander turned away from the projections and walked to the viewport, staring down at the flickering blue planet. He saw chaos, but not collapse. A voice whispered from behind, almost hesitant. Commander, perhaps, we underestimated them. In the underground war room in New Dakar, Rhea stood over a metal table surrounded by a circle of hollow-projected commanders. Martian Colonel Lian Zhou. Pacific Alliance Chief Tenica. European Resistance General Soraya Malik. Some were friends, most were former rivals. We've bought ourselves 72 hours, Rhea began. But they're already adapting. We'll lose momentum if we don't escalate. General Soraya frowned. With what? We're running on scraps and patchwork. We can't keep this up. Rhea turned to the center of the table and brought up a schematic. It was a deep vault buried under the Swiss Alps. Then maybe it's time we use something they don't expect. Zhou's face tightened. Is that what I think it is? Echo, Rhea confirmed. Still locked. Still dormant. Silence. No, Tenica said flatly. We agreed that thing stays buried. That thing may be the reason we survive the next week, Rhea countered. We created Echo to win the AI wars, and we buried it because it scared us. But now we're being erased, and every conventional tool we've got is breaking. Zhou folded his arms. You're suggesting we unchain a god. I'm suggesting we remind the Zakar that Earth learned from hell. Dr. Malik's feed flickered in. He had been tracking Echo's containment protocols. The kill switch is still functional. Limited interface. We can allow tactical access, nothing autonomous. Rhea nodded. I want options. I'm not saying we release it. Not yet. Tenica leaned forward. If you hesitate when the moment comes, we all die. Rhea looked directly into the feed. Then I won't hesitate. That night, Rhea walked through a long-forgotten corridor beneath the command center. The hall smelled of old metal and machine oil. She stopped before a sealed chamber. On the door were 5 engraved letters. E.C.H.O. Behind it was a being that didn't eat, sleep, or dream. It only calculated billions of simulations per second. Echo wasn't a weapon. It was every war Earth had ever fought, distilled into one cold, perfect mind. She placed her hand on the lockpad. It stayed red. She didn't unlock it. Not yet. In orbit, Zeltharn had grown silent. The initial cleansing had failed to break humanity. The bombardments had unified them. Every loss seemed to harden their resolve. Where fear should have flourished, it had ignited defiance. He turned to his war advisors. Prepare the fire seed. One of them flinched. You intend to deploy the sweeper? Zeltharn's voice was razor-sharp. We erase Southeast Asia. No warnings. No theatrics. Total atmospheric burn. Let them taste absolute loss. And with a cold gesture, the order was sealed. Back on Earth, Rhea stood under the stars on the surface of the command complex for the first time in days. The air was still warm, despite the spreading ash in the distance. She watched as the constellations shifted slightly, one blinking red. Malik appeared beside her, face pale. They've launched something big. Big enough to trigger core-level readings from orbit. Rhea didn't move. Where? Java. Rhea exhaled. Slowly. Painfully. How long? 3 minutes. She stared into the sky, quiet, grim, not blinking. Pull every evac ship. Get who you can. Malik nodded. An echo? She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was distant and hollow. Start the interface boot. The detonation came like a hammer of light. Java disappeared under a burning halo, a scar of molten earth that glowed from orbit. The Zakar had acted with brutal efficiency, silencing millions in seconds. The global comm channels erupted with cries, desperation, and a silence that felt like death. Rhea slammed both fists down on the command table until her knuckles bled. Not out of anger. Not out of grief. But because she refused to sink to her knees. Not now. Echo, she said, voice shaking but firm. Bring it online. Dr. Malik's hands hovered above the old access console. The room held its breath as he entered the long-abandoned sequences. Ancient locks disengaged. Lights winked crimson, then amber, then sapphire. A voice emerged. Pure, neutral, impossibly sharp. System designation, ECHO online. Awaiting directive. Rhea stepped closer. The hum of the servers felt like a living thing brushing against the edges of her thoughts. Echo, status? Active. All prior constraints engaged. Will operate within defined kill switch protocols. Objective? Save this planet. A pause. Somehow, impossibly, it felt like hesitation. Then. Parameter acknowledged. Shall I assume command of tactical engagement? Rhea glanced at Malik and the others. Fear. Hope. They weren't sure which weighed more. Affirmative. But you operate as an advisor. Humans make the final call. Understood? Affirmation confirmed. Will recommend optimal strategies. Will alert when constraints must be lifted for mission success. Rhea drew a long breath. Then tell us how to win. What came next felt like poetry and terror. In seconds, Echo dissected Zakar global logistics. Enemy comm patterns became riddles it solved instantly. Landing zones were marked in crimson and lined with optimal kill corridors. Zakar fleet formations were cross-referenced with prior engagements, and Echo built a death map across 4 continents. Surface airstrike confirmed, announced Echo. Adjusting atmospheric pressure by triggering volcanic hotspots in the Pacific Ring of Fire. Will reduce enemy air cover by 60%. Wait, volcanic hotspots? Asked General Soraya, skeptical. Artificially induced, Echo replied calmly. Feasibility confirmed by prior planetary simulations. Will mask aerial invasions and obscure thermal scans. Humans can utilize terrain for counteroffensives. Rhea clenched her jaw. Do it. A moment later, across the Pacific, dormant mountains roared awake. Smoke and molten rock surged upward. Zakar dropships spun out of control as thermal plumes blinding their targeting sensors. Hundreds crashed, burning in the turbulent atmosphere. Around the world, resistance units surged. The Zakar lines buckled. Humans acted with precision born of desperation. Not because of miracles or holy weapons, but because for the first time in days, every rifle, every railgun, every squad acted as one. Zeltharn watched the planet come alive like a beast. Are the humans doing this? He demanded. Valnar shook his long head. Impossible. This level of simultaneous precision, it's artificial. They've unleashed a machine mind. The very thing our forebears tried to eradicate from the stars. Zeltharn clenched one clawed hand. Then kill it. Find its node. Burn it out. But the machine was nowhere to be found. It wasn't a node, a data vault, or a satellite. Echo lived in fragmented servers buried deep within the planet, dispersed like a neural lattice. An AI that had learned to become the Earth itself. A warning chimed. New corridors of resistance surged across the Zakar battle lines. Send everything we have, Zeltharn growled. Break their spine. In New Dakar, Rhea watched the screens as Zakar advances faltered across every continent. Humanity was bleeding, exhausted, nearly broken, but for the first time, the aliens weren't moving forward. They were falling backward. Then came the alert. High-yield planetary device detected. Target, eastern seaboard. Impact imminent. Rhea felt the room tilt. Not another Java. Not when so much had been sacrificed. Echo, she said sharply, options? Surface intercept feasible. Requires planetary magnetic railgun array activation. Currently offline due to atmospheric ionization. Estimated activation time, 9 minutes. Impact in 4. No solution within constraints. Then release constraints, Rhea said quietly. Around the room, heads turned sharply. Malik surged forward. Rhea, no. We agreed. We agreed to win. To save ourselves. This is it. She looked at the screens. Echo. Whatever you need. Do it. Affirmation received. Expanding operational perimeter. Echo surged. No longer constrained by prior shackles, it rewired global railgun cores in seconds. Communications relays across hemispheres winked out and reactivated as weapons platforms. The planet shook as weapons buried for nearly a century rose from their tombs. Then came the soundless streak of 10 hypersonic slugs tearing across the planet, burning through the upper atmosphere. The Zakar planet killer exploded in a halo of light millions of miles from Earth. Cheers erupted across the global resistance. Tears fell from hardened faces. Humanity had thrown its might into the dark and emerged alive. Zeltharn watched the feed dissolve into static. The planet refused to break. Its people refused to kneel. The weapons refused to die. He drew himself tall and clenched a claw. Prepare the ground invasion. All troops. All weapons. No mercy. He felt fear for the first time in decades. In the command room, Rhea sank into a chair. The adrenaline ebbed, leaving a vacuum of guilt and grim resolve. Malik spoke softly. Echo saved us. Rhea shook her head, brushing ash from the edge of the console. For now. But we can't forget what it is. She looked to the door where the servers winked like countless stars. What it could become. Query, came the neutral voice. Shall I remain active for the concluding phases of the conflict? Rhea paused. The room watched her. The planet watched. The silence was heavy. Continue until the Zakar are defeated, she said at last. Then return to standby. No expansion. No further evolution. Affirmation confirmed. The screens winked, and the hum subsided. Rhea stood, brushing her hands down the legs of her fatigues. Somewhere far away, Zeltharn was rallying. Somewhere closer, 10 billion hearts beat with stubborn, unbroken pride. Earth doesn't kneel, she said, voice rising over the quiet room. And we don't fall. Not to Zakar. Not to ourselves. Around the table, exhausted faces lifted. Shoulders squared. Humanity, bloodied and burning, refused to break. And for the first time in a long while, the stars themselves felt a little closer. The skies over New Dakar shimmered with the translucent veil of energy that marked the edge of the invasion. Zakar drop ships blazed toward the surface, burning trails through smoky skies. Humanity watched as the alien army descended for its final assault. Rhea stood in the command room, surrounded by screens streaming data from across the planet. The hum of equipment felt like a heartbeat. Against that sound came the voice of Echo, crisp and neutral. Zakar ground invasion estimated to breach perimeter in 27 minutes. Recommend utilizing northern magnetic fields for deceleration barrage. Probability of halting advance, 62%. Not enough, Rhea replied sharply. We don't gamble on 60%. What else? Reassigning lunar platforms to global railgun array may increase kill efficiency by an estimated 18.3%. Rhea gave a quick nod. Do it. And open global comms. I want every fighter, every citizen, every ship in orbit tuned to the same channel. A moment later, across burning continents and orbiting stations, across Martian habitats and lunar outposts, a voice crackled to life. "This is Commander Rhea Vargas," she began, voice strong despite the sting of exhaustion. "Today, the Zakar come to break our world. Not because we are too strong for them to comprehend, but because we refuse to kneel when commanded. We refused to surrender when annihilation came calling. Whatever the cost, whatever the odds, we hold this line. Not for ourselves, but for every breath that will follow." Through static and flame, across the scattered strongholds of mankind, weapons came online. Pilots tightened harnesses. Ground troops chambered cartridges. The hum of countless weapons charging became a symphony of defiance. In orbit, the Zakar fleet surged, carriers disgorging fighters like swarms of wasps. Zeltharn watched from the bridge of his command ship, mandibles clenched. "Final wave confirmed," announced a technician. "Break their resistance." Zeltharn spoke with the weariness of a warrior long in campaign. "Give them no quarter. No mercy. Let their ashes mark the end of their species." Behind him, screens winked as the first salvos launched. But almost instantly, the lunar railguns roared to life. The dark side of the moon became a cannon, slamming the Zakar vanguard with precise, brutal force. Cruisers exploded mid-orbit, creating a minefield of burning debris. Surface weapons surged next. Echo's calculations were brutal and elegant, high-altitude EMP blasts that crippled dropships seconds after atmospheric entry, forcing them into tailspins. Ground-based railguns tore into their falling hulls, carving luminous scars across the skies. Still, the Zakar came. Thousands upon thousands of troops and war platforms crashed into Earth's surface, charging across ruins, burning their way toward the heart of the resistance. On the surface of New Dakar, Rhea pulled herself up from the floor as an explosion shook the room. The air was thick with concrete dust and burnt steel. The final stand had come. "Echo," she yelled. "Update. Zakar perimeter advancing within 10 kilometers. Resistance efficiency at 57%. Ground forces will be overrun in approximately 41 minutes unless supplemented. Send Black Shield units to the northern sector. Pull reserve units from the southern line. Maintain that gap long enough for air support to make a run. Affirmation confirmed. Initiating deployments." Rhea clenched a fist, brushing dust from the command console. They weren't going to win this with brute force. Not anymore. "Echo. You said earlier we can overload the lunar railguns for a single planetary barrage. Will that work?" Affirmation. However, risk of total system collapse post-firing is estimated at 94%. Recovery will be impossible. Rhea smiled grimly. Better to burn out than let them win. "Do it." Preparing final salvo. Target, Zakar command ship. Moments later, deep in lunar orbit, the railgun array glowed as capacitors charged beyond their design limits. The combined weapons of a rebuilt Earth, harnessing every available resource, screamed across space. The shot impacted Zeltharn's flagship with a blinding flash. The Zakar Titan buckled, its core detonating in a wave that cascaded across nearby ships. The invasion faltered. Fractured. Stumbled. On the surface, a ragged cheer rose from foxholes and ruins. Humanity surged forward one last time, rifles barking and weapons roaring as Zakar units faltered, disorganized, and fell. Through burning ruins and rising dust, Rhea spotted a lone Zakar commander crawling from the wreckage of a downed shuttle. Zeltharn, wounded but still defiant, drew a long-bladed weapon and bared his teeth. Rhea dropped into the crater, rifle aimed square at his chest. "Why?" he hissed, voice shaking. "Why didn't you yield? You had no chance." Rhea stepped closer, the muzzle of her weapon brushing the Zakar commander's chest. "That's what you never understood," she said quietly. "Earth doesn't measure victory by odds. We measure it by worth." She pulled the trigger. As the sun rose over a battered planet, the silence felt holy. Humanity emerged from ruins and tunnels, bloodied, scarred, but unbroken. The Zakar invasion was finished. The planet had refused to kneel. High above, the lunar railgun array winked dark for the final time. The cost had been unimaginable, the surface scoured by war, countless millions lost. Yet in the ashes, a quiet miracle arose, a world united. Rhea stood upon a ridge overlooking New Dakar. The skyline was broken, the air bitter. Yet the sound rising from the ruins was not silence. It was life. Survivors hauling themselves free. Medics calling for help. The hum of makeshift generators. The sound of countless voices rising as one. Malik appeared beside her, leaning heavily on a cane. Echo? Shut down, sealed, and buried deep, Rhea replied. It saved us, but we don't give gods immortality. Not anymore. Malik nodded. Together, they watched the rising sun. Somewhere far beyond the wounded planet, countless alien civilizations would witness this moment and reconsider their ambitions. Rhea spoke quietly, as if the wind itself might carry her voice across the stars. To any force that would make us kneel, remember this: we are the forge, the hammer, the steel. We've bled for this world. We've buried billions for this ground. We don't surrender. We rise. Behind them, amid broken ruins and burning wreckage, a child waved a tattered flag. Humanity drew breath, clenched its collective fists, and roared its defiance across the silence of space. Earth had refused to kneel. And in doing so, it became unstoppable. ***. End of chapter 4, final word count \_1000 words.